So let me record this. Okay, so I'm going to try to record this. So sorry, I'm just now starting to record. For those that have just joined via recording, basically what I'm saying is starting in this is week 4 of an 8-week course. In week 4, we're going to cover chapters 1 and 2 again. And program 1 that you worked on, which was asking a user for input and then displaying, how much change they had, is now program 2. Hopefully that's not confusing. Program 1 is now just a simple, displaying a couple lines of a song. Please keep that, BC, Bluefield College appropriate. We're all adults here. I'm not going to say, pick between X amount of songs. So, don't do any lyrics that's going to get me fired. So no Eminem, no whatever, unless you can find 4 lines of an Eminem song that wouldn't get me fired, and good luck to you on that. But, just the program 1 is a simple, I'm going to go over it in this, kind of go over it. I'm not going to give you the whole answer because what good would that do? I already know how to do that, right? So you've got to learn how to do it. But I'm going to walk us through that one. I'm also going to walk through everybody the pseudocode for program 2, which was program 1. But I know I've sent this to a lot of students, but we're going to do it again. And like I said, if you liked what you got for program 1, which is now program 2, I'll keep that grade the way it is. You don't have to return it in. But if you want to try for a better grade, you can resubmit that program. So that's week 4. Week 5, we're going to talk about chapter 3. So only chapter 3. We're going to go about this the slow route since y'all didn't have the programming design class. If everybody would email me days and times of the week that would work for you, and we'll try to do a Zoom meeting again to kind of go over some more stuff, okay, since we can't meet in person. So if you'll just take time sometime today or this week, we'll just count this as this week, where, and if I have to have multiple Zoom meetings, that's okay. We will do that and try to at least come up with a pseudocode for all these programs that we're going to be working on. So week 5 is chapter 3, which would be program 3, which comes out of chapter 3 assignments. No, that's not the one. You got a question, John? You can unmute.
Yes,
Okay.
real quick. If we try and redo program 1, would we get the best of both grades?
Yes, so which is now program 2. So program 2, which comes from chapter 2, hopefully that's, let's think about it that way. So chapter 2, program 2, let's say that you got an 85, okay? And of course I know what grade y'all got, but I'm just throwing out numbers here. And you're like, okay, I'm happy with that. We'll stick with an 85. If you want to retry and you get a 95, I'll go with the 95. If you retry and, it's basically the same grade or even lower, I'm going to go with the 85, whatever's the higher grade. Okay. So this is just a, considering everything that's gone on with this class, this is another freebie that I'm throwing out there for y'all, that if you didn't like the grade that you had, and since we don't have that one program where I drop the lowest grade, this is a way to bring that grade back up if you wanted to. So good question. So that's week 5. Week 6 is chapter 4, which is program 4, which was program 2. I know this is confusing. Like I said, I apologize. I was trying to do this with COVID brain or COVID shot brain. So if you've already started working on program 2, you're already halfway there. If you've already turned in program 2, or which now is program 4, I really want to think about, because program 2, which now is 4, so program 4 for chapter 4 doesn't say you have to do a GUI. I would really like to challenge y'all to do a GUI, because that is the essence of C#, right? That's why most computer programmers like C# is because it's pretty, right? It does all this cool stuff. That's why most people like it compared to C# or C++ and Java. You can do GUI stuff with those, but it's more complicated. Like I said, I won't get into that in this class. But so I would like to, but I'm going to see how today goes and how our next Zoom meeting goes before I say for sure you have to have a GUI in Program 4 or not. So like I said, if you've got something already there, it's a very good, if you've got the console-based code for Program 4, you're off to a very, very good start for the GUI, okay? And then week 7 is chapter 5. We're only going to chapter 5, which is basically looping, if else, do while, do untils, and that would be Program 5. And that one I'm not going to make a GUI, so you don't have to worry about a GUI for that one. I don't think I've updated the thing for that, but I'll update that when we get done with the meeting. Because at first I was going to do one, but I decided not to. So that kind of, and then week 8 is your final exam. We're only going to have one exam, so no 2 exams. All this information is under syllabus updated version, but that's pretty much what we're going to do. So the final exam will count for 40%, unfortunately, instead of 20, but it only covers chapters 1 through 5. The programs, there's 5 of, which, you know, we got rid of the one freebie, sorry. Those still count for 50%, and your attendance still counts for 10. And what I've done for attendance is basically you've got 5 attendances now, and you know, instead of the 8. The one you've already done, which was tell me a bit about yourself, I've kept that one. That one's the same. If you already start working on, and I know Kaylee, I think you turned in a couple other ones early maybe. So sorry about this, but you can take what you've turned in and kind of redo it for the assignments, as you'll see here in a second. So attendance 2 talks about chapters 1 and 2 and programs 1 and 2. Assignment 3 covers chapter 3 and program 3. Assignment 4 covers chapter 4 and assignment 4 or program 4. And attendance 5 covers chapter 5 and homework 5. So it kind of, like I said, maybe y'all probably could have thought of 100 easier ways to do this, but to me that made the most sense. So those will count for, only those 5 attendances will count for your class participation. So if you've already turned in assignment attendance 2, which cover chapters 3 and 4, I think, or 1 and 2, I can't remember. It's been a lot of, if you think it's been confusing for you, try to, you know, please try to put yourself in my shoes and try to figure all this out from a teacher's point of view. So if you've already turned that stuff in, just take that attendance homework and divide it into the new attendance homeworks. So that's kind of my easy way of doing that. So before we go into anything else, is there any questions on that, on the homework, or how I've kind of done everything? Hopefully that makes it's clearer than mud.
I have one question.
Yes.
About the final exam. Does the final exam, is it like a program or is it just questions from the chapters?
It's just questions from the chapters. That's a good question. It's just multiple choice. There's 50 questions, so 2 points apiece. Actually, there may be true false. I'm gonna have to double check. I think there's 25 multiple choice, 25 true false. They're all worth 2 points apiece. You have 3 hours to do it. Just a second, John. You have 3 hours to do it. You have to do it all in one sitting. You may use your notes. You may use your book. You may use basically anything that's available under note or handouts. Under handouts is free domain. You may use Google. I mean, hey, who doesn't use Google? But you may not use a neighbor, you know, closed neighbor, no cheating. So that kind of, and the other thing with the final is it will open automatically on the 26th at 8 a.m. And then you have more than a week to do it. So for those that are graduating, and if you're graduating, please let me know ASAP so we can kind of work with you. But those that are graduating, grades are due the 6th, so you can see that the, let me get to week 8. So you can see that the exam is technically due on the 7th, but you know, I assign it more than a week ahead of time. So if seniors, if you'll let me know when you're that you are graduating this year, if you'll have everything turned in by the 4th or the 5th at the latest. I know I said the 4th, but if you can turn it in by the 5th, I'll try to get it, you know, I've got a lot of things on my plate too, so I'm trying to get grades turned in here. So hopefully that'll give you enough time to get everything done. If not, I can try to work with you, but let's try to have everything in so I can get your grades in so that you can graduate on May the 6th. Okay, so it's true, false, multiple choice, or guess. 50 questions, 2 points apiece, 3 hours. You may use your book. And I think that's pretty much all that. John, you had a question.
You answered it.
Okay, good deal. And I made it easy. I didn't make it like if it was false, you had to tell me why, what would make it true, just true or false. So, and of course, multiple guess. So, like I said, you may use your book, the instructor manuals, everything you see on the slide here. Google, just not Naper. All right, so before I start, well, I think I've already got Visuals. Well, no, I'm getting ready to get Visual Studios up and running. Before I get Visual Studios up and running, are there any other questions? Kaylee, any other questions from you?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And John, any other questions from you? Okay. So I think y'all too, this is probably not directed towards y'all, and I'm not throwing anybody underneath the bus. But hopefully everyone got an email from me 2 weeks before class started that said, hey, class is getting ready to start in 2 weeks. Would you please download Visual Studios so that when class starts, we can be ready to go and go off to the races. John, I know we talked about getting Visual Studios up and running on yours, so I know you had yours up and going even before I sent out the email. So hopefully those that are watching this recording now see why I asked to download Visual Studios before class started, because we've had a lot of issues with people downloading Visual Studios. I don't know what kind of computers y'all all use. I just assume that it's a PC, but some people use Macs. Heaven help you. I used to like Macs until unfortunately Steve Jobs passed away, and then I kind of think they sold out, but that's me personally. Some people use Chromebooks, some people use Surfaces. So, you know, I don't know what computers y'all use. You have to tell me. So when you're running into issues, you know, that's why it's very important to send me an email. And John and Kaylee, y'all can attest that when you send me an email, it's less than an hour that I respond back. I'm not bragging, but I'm probably the only instructor that does that. So, you know, I try to do it in less than 24 hours, but y'all can attest that I probably, like if it's more than 2 hours, something's gone on that I've had to take care of. But I try to respond fairly quickly with questions that y'all have. And hopefully I've answered them correctly. And if not, then email me again. That's what it's for, right? Where we're not meeting face to face. So that kind of explains why I asked y'all to download the program before we got started. So that's the end of that story. So if there's no other questions, what I'm going to do is I've got Visual Studios open here, and I'm just going to create a new project. So y'all probably already know how this works, but you know, this is for record purposes. And so we're just going to do a console app project. So we're going to choose this one. And we're just going to call it example. And we're going to say create. All right, so of course this goes over on my screen. I'm one of the lucky people that have dual monitors. So this is very, let me bring that back up. So does everybody see my screen? Just basically says using system example and then hello world, right? Okay. That will be the very first program that you do no matter what computer programming language you go with. That's always going to be the first program that you use. So one thing that I like to do, you don't have to do it, but right underneath using system, I like to say using static system.console, semicolon. And what that does is basically I can take this whole console dot away and it's still going to work correctly. So it saves a little less space. I don't have to write out the whole thing. Like I said, you don't have to put it in your, I'm not going to count it wrong if you don't put it in there, but I like to put it in there because anything that saves less time for me is a winner in my book. And so Kaylee, I can't remember, I'm sorry, I've been working on a lot of other stuff. So if you have, I apologize, but I know John did this with his program 1, which is now program 2, is in the C# helpful hints. One of my top rules is comment, 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 comment. Why? Well, there's a couple reasons. I used to be a computer programmer for Northrop Grumman. So I'm going to give you 2 real life, real world examples of how commenting can save you time and frustration. So one is you're working on a team, okay? You're working on a project. So let's say that we're doing a program calculating grades. I'm working on asking the user to input their grades. John's working on getting the calculations, and Kaylee's working on averaging them out and displaying them. Okay, so we're all working on 3 different things. So if I don't comment my part of the code, how's John going to know where to go from there, right? And then how's Kaylee going to know where to go from what John does? So, you know, a lot of big companies will have group projects where you're working on different pages. So we created, we didn't have a time clock. So when I first worked at Northrop Grumman, we created our own web page where we'd go in and clock in and out and all that stuff. So, you know, I would create a page that was for, you know, medical leave or jury duty or any of that, you know, paid time off, sick time, you know, going to see Star Wars. You know, whatever the case may be is, I would create that page, and then John would create the page on, you know, proving that or whatever from the manager's point of view. And so I would test his page, he would test my page, Kaylee would test another page, and she would work on another page. So without having that code, you know, those comments, it made it very difficult to try to figure out how to get this all up and running to where we could, you know, go in there and say, I came in at 8 o'clock, I took lunch from 12 to 1, I left at 5 o'clock, and tomorrow I got to take 30 minutes off to, you know, go get a teeth cleaned or whatever the case may be is. So that's one reason why it's very important to comment. Second one is I worked on a website for the Air Force when I was at Northrop Grumman. And so I did everything that they wanted me to do. I sent it on its merry little way, didn't think anything else about it. 6 months later, they emailed me back and said they wanted to add 2 more things to that website. So if I wouldn't have commented, I would have been totally up a creek without a paddle and a boat, because I'd been like, where did I do this? And where do I need to add this? And those type of things. So that's the second big thing. And the third one is for your pseudocode. You know, you can just write to your little heart's content. on what you want the program to do. So it's just, you know, very helpful. So in this case, so we're just going to write lyrics to the screen. So this is an example of program 1. So if I pull up your program 1 document here, and drag it over to the other screen, it says, please complete programming exercise number 4, lyrics, on page 45. And here, I don't know if you can see all the lyrics, but this is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. This was voted as the #1 song for the past 100 years, according to Billboard. This was also the song that was voted the best song in a movie ever, according to, you know, the American Film Institute, AFI. Useless information. I have way too much useless information, but I used to work at FYE. So if you ever want to talk movie stuff, maybe there should be a game show. I would do really well at these game shows. But anyway, a little bit about myself because we can't meet face to face. But so this just says, hey, somewhere over the rainbow, I'm not going to sing because I cannot sing. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. So you're going to print off or print to the screen 4 lines of lyrics to, like I said, any song that you want to, just keep it BC approved. Hopefully I don't have to talk about that again. So if I execute this code, and if we were in class, I'd be a little bit more strict about things, but since I can't see what you do at home, I am one of these people that once I get my hands on the keyboard, I don't like to use the mouse. You know, just as a helpful hint, there's all kinds of keyboard shortcuts. Control S is save, Control F is find, Control P is print, Control C is copy, Control V is paste. I love shortcut keyboard controls. If we were in class and I went up to, I can't see you on video, Kaylee, so I'll use John. And John was working on this program and he went up here and he clicked on example instead of hitting F5, I probably would joke around with him and say I wasn't going to look at his homework because, you know, I just like hitting F5. It makes, it makes things, I don't know. But since I can't see at home, it doesn't matter. But we're going to press F5. It's just a little, I always hated the paperclip too, but you know, that's a story for another day. So I've hit the code here. I just hit F5 and it says hello world. Once again, that is the very first program that you will learn in any programming language. So you take those lyrics, you know, somewhere over the rainbow. Okay, we're going to close out of this. What could I type in here that would say somewhere over the rainbow? I wonder, I wonder, I wonder. I gave y'all a very easy first program. You're welcome. You know, what is it? Teacher evaluations at the end of the class. So hopefully that makes sense on how how you would do 4 lines of code. Okay. So before we start working on program 2, which was program 1, does anybody have any other questions on program 1? This seems, like I said, to me, and the reason I asked this is because to me, this seems easy, but y'all haven't had program design. So I want to make double sure that nobody has any questions up to this point. Kaylee or John, feel free to chime in if you have any questions.
I'm good.
Okay. John, you're good? Give me a thumbs up if you're good. Okay, cool. All right, so, and I apologize that I'm so professional that I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, but hey, Star Wars is the bomb diggity. You know what I'm saying? And just for useless information as well, these are called puffins. These are the second best animal known to the world, the first being koalas, but you know, just useless information as well. All right, so anyway, sorry. I go off on these little tangents. I'm like the little white bunny that chase, you know, I'm late. All right, so we are going to take what we have here and we are going to break down program 2. which was 1, but now it's 2. And both of y'all have already turned in program 2, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. But we're going to break this down into some pseudocode so you can kind of get an idea of what is going on here. So we're just going to change this write lyrics to the screen. As the user, I can't type. So ask the user for an amount, okay? Which should look very similar to what we already have here. So we have to declare the variables, right? So I'm going to, let me close out of program 1 and let me open up program 2. So if you remember, program 2 is the make change. So I always gave, and I'm sorry if it was confusing to people. Some people were hard coding 37. I was just trying to say when you're testing your code, just for an example for me, when I test my code 37, because I know there's going to be a 20 involved, I know there's going to be a 10 involved, I know there's going to be a 5 involved, and I know there's going to be 1s involved. So that's why I chose 37. So hopefully that explains that a little bit better. And let me open up my code here. All right, so we're going to declare the variables. So, and we'll do that later. And then determine the amount of change. Math. Boo. Sorry, math majors. I have to pick on you because we're IT and math is bad. IT is good. No, I'm just kidding. I used to like math until I got in front of a computer and there was this lovely thing called a calculator. And then, oops, come back here. All right. So basically that's all this program is asking us to do. You got to declare the variables. You got to ask the user for input. And you got to determine the amount of change. Math, and Kaylee, are you a math major? Am I right on that?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't making fun of you.
No, that's all right.
So this part was probably your favorite part, right? If I had to guess. And then display the results. All right. So I think both of y'all and everyone that turned in their work got this part correct. So I'm going to go ahead and give you, basically the first line of stuff here, which instead of write, come in. Line is just write. I've got a wireless mouse and sometimes it doesn't want to do what I ask it to do. See, there we go. Undo, undo. You don't have to type this verbatim for what I did. I still did that. Got too much stuff plugged up on my computer, sorry. All right, so now if you didn't have this using static system.console, obviously this would be console.write. Please enter a monetary value in whole dollars. And then I gave it a little space here, just so the number doesn't go, flat against the little back arrows. So it gives a little bit easier to read. So we know that part. So let's look at declaring the variables, which I think both of you from the start were off on a good start. So the program says, hey, ask the user for input. We've done that. So we're good there. So let's go to the next step. And we're just worried about pseudocode right now. You know, we can enter in exact code if we know what it is. So if y'all know what it is, feel free to speak up and we'll add it to the code here. So, but what we want to do next is, hey, what do we know that we need? Well, the program says to ask the user for input. We've got that. So we're on to step 2. It says whatever they enter. So in example 37, how are they going to convert that? How are we going to convert that to 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s? So we need to at least declare those, right? So Kaylee, I'll start with you. How would you declare the 20s, the 10s, the 5s, and the 1s? I think you're still on mute. Did we lose you, Kaylee? All right, we'll go with John. Kaylee, you can do that. So John, what would you do for the 20? You can go off mute if you want to.
All right, I don't remember the exact word, but it's like you put it in a group, I think.
Right. So I think what most of y'all were doing, if I remember correctly, most of y'all were doing it this way, correct? Does this look familiar? Programs is just not liking me today. Yeah, we lost Kaylee. Okay. Let's see. I'll pop this up in case she joins us back. Okay. I'm just going to call them out. So that's what the user is going to enter. So I think most of y'all had this part, you know, you're off to a good start. So I think, John, and I'll probably unrecord this when we start talking one-on-one. So I don't want to get too much into the woods just yet. So, but I think everybody was off to a good start on here. So yes, 20s equals 20s, 10s equals 10s, 5 equals 5s, 1 equals 1. The thing that I want everybody to think about, like I said, without even getting into any code, is chapter 2 talks about if you have a value that you know is going to be consistent, is not going to change, what would you do different than what is in this code right here? And I kind of gave it away with my verbiage just a second ago. So that is what you would want to change with those. So hopefully that is a good start to that. So once you take this, you know that you want to get whatever the user entered, for example, 37, and you want to convert that to an integer. So convert amount user entered into don't know why my computer is being so crazy. Right? That's the first thing that you want to do, because we're only dealing with numbers here. And if you've had any, programming languages, how computers, or any type of computer class, how computers translate everything into zeros and ones. I don't want to get into all that stuff, but there is that. So that's the first thing that you want to do before you do anything else in math. And I'm going to space that out. So the next thing you want to do is you want to, figure out how many 20s the person has. Okay, and then you do, I'm not going to do everything, but 10s, 5s, the whole kit and caboodle. In chapter 2, it talks about, I'll give everybody a hint, divide and remainder. That is basically the math part of this, okay? And then display the results. So in this example, you would use a right line. The whole thing will be, but use right line to display 20s, 10s, yada, 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 yada. Okay. So for everybody else, and I'm going to end this recording soon, but for everybody else that's having issues with program 1, which is now 2, hopefully now you can kind of see how pseudocode works. I mean, I gave some code, but basically everything else was just, okay, what I need to do. Step 1, ask the user for input. Step 2, I need to do the math. Step 3, I needed to display the results. Okay, once I have that process down, what do I know that goes into that program? Well, I know there's 10s, 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. I know the line of code because it gives it to you to input, to ask for, display something on the screen. Okay, so I can include that if I already know it. And another helpful hint is just start out with the 20s. Put in code. Use 37 as the example. If you're getting 1, you're off to a good start. If you're getting anything other than 1, something's wrong with your math. Okay. That's just you just keep. I think most of y'all, what you're having issues with is you saw this big thing. That's no moon, right? And you needed to break it down into simpler steps, so it wasn't as, oh, the world's going to end and the Death Star is going to kill us all, right? Break it down into smaller steps, right? We had to go get Han and Chewie. Okay, we had to go get input from the user. We had to go get the Millennium Falcon. We have to do some math. We had to go find Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got to display the results. Sorry to all y'all non-Star Wars fans. But, once you start breaking things down, I'm not saying it makes it easier, but it's not as, the whole world is not collapsing on you. And, if you can get that one step, hey, that's 1 out of that many done. So that's when you're looking at the next few programs, the next few weeks, try to break it down that way first. Don't worry about the code. just worry about what is it wanting me to do? Okay, how can I break it down into manageable steps? Okay, now I've done that. Now what code do I know that's going to work? Put that in here. What line of code, do I think, okay, the textbook says this. Let's try this. And it may be a little bit different, but let's just see what happens. And the other thing I'll say before I stop the recording, and John, if you have any questions specifically, we'll talk if you have time, is you can click in here and you can put a breakpoint anywhere in this code. So I just clicked on line number 19, and there's also instructions in that helpful tips to get the line code to show what line you're on. Those are very beneficial. I use those all the time, and I've been coding for quite a while. So those lines of code just make things a little bit easier to read as well. And so if you put in this break line here, when you're working on the program, it will stop, and you can hit, I think it's F7. You can hit F7 and it will walk you through. And so it'll all of a sudden that this amount, it'll display what that amount is. So if you type in 37, once you hit F7 and you make sure you have this line of code right here correct, that when you hover over amount, so if I come over here and I hover over this, once I complete that step, it should say equals 37. So that way okay, I have got that value from the user. We are good, okay? And then you can break it down. And then when you get to the 20s, okay, the 20s is saying there's 2. Well, I have $37. So I know my math is wrong. So that just is a lifesaver. If you have that break line that you can break it through and walk through the program step by step and see, okay, it's getting 37. So I know I'm getting the value from the user. But wait a minute, it's saying that there's 2 20s and $37. Something's, not adding up here. And so when you do that, it just makes it a whole lot, easier to kind of figure out, okay, well, line 23, it's not getting the value. So I know I've got to go back and work on my, converting or whatever the case may be is. So that's why it's really important to use the lines, adding the lines to your code. And like you, John and Kaylee and others have the comments. Comments are very, very, very helpful. I can't stress that enough. I've even thought about having that as part of grading for the programs, is if you don't have code, I'm going to take off, comments, I'm going to take off X amount of points, just because it's so vital to have that information in there. But otherwise, I think we're off to a good start on program 2. What I'm going to ask everybody before I finish the recording is, once again, please email me at jpruitt01@bluefield.edu some days of the week and times that you can meet. And if I have to have multiple Zoom meetings, that's what we'll do, to kind of walk through these programs like we are doing with program 1 and program 2 here in this recording. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this is recording. Let me know sometime so we can work through some stuff. I hope this has been helpful to you. And otherwise, I'm going to stop this recording. And John, if you got time, we'll answer some questions, but let me stop recording here. And if I can figure out how. Let me just pause the screen and see.